Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to speak as if I was literally just elected as president, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in there, this is my first day. I'm going to speak like that. Like,
Okay.
if I'm actually, hey, you just got sworn in, you're on your way to the White House, go.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here's what I would do. This is my first day as president, and I mean every word of this.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would do is I would talk to the head of my cabinet, and I'd say, get me a list of every single non-violent drug criminal in America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where, maybe they have some federal database for that. Maybe they'd have to call the states and get it individually. However, whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing I do.
Regardless of how many people it is.
Regardless how many people, I don't care how many people it is, okay? The second that I get all of those names, and I don't know if it would be the first day or if it take a few days to get all the names together, whatever, I'm immediately pardoning every single one of them.
Really?
Every single non-violent drug offender.
Okay.
Yeah. Every single non-violent drug offender in the country. So if you were ever selling weed, selling cocaine, doing weed, doing cocaine, every single non-violent drug offender in the country, you're free. Every
drug, heroin.
Every single drug. Yeah, every drug. I don't care. Every single non-violent drug criminal, you're free.
Okay.
See, some people are going to react like that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but just wait until I explain to the American people. Hey, here's why I'm doing this. Hey, when you come home from work and you drink a Corona, do you think that you're breaking the law? Do you think that you should be put in jail for that? People go, of course not. What do you mean? Hey, when you come home from work and you're stressed, you have anxiety, you take a Xanax. Do you think you're breaking the law?
Yeah,
is there a problem there?
Say that other side with, that guy has a Corona and then he has a couple more and then he beats his wife or something. There's other consequences.
But that's not true. It's not true that all people. What percentage of people that drink alcohol are beating their wives? 0.1%?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a contributing factor to them.
Are you?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think at all. Are you kidding me? I drink all the time. I drink beer.
No, not us. But I'm saying if maybe that guy wasn't doing drugs or wasn't drinking beer, would he do the same stuff that he would do if he wasn't?
80 to 90% of all drug users of all drugs are moderate users. They could pay their bills, they could take care of their families, they can live a normal life. 10 to 20%. This isn't numbers I made up. This is according to Dr. Carl Hart, who's a specialist in addiction and all things related to drugs. I think he's a neuroscientist. 80 to 90%. So why is it that when it's a drug like alcohol, everybody just casually accepts that? Like, everybody knows an alcoholic or two. I know. Yeah, my cousin, whatever. He had some troubles. He had to go to this or that rehab center. Everybody knows that. But nobody takes the next step and they go, well, we should obviously ban it because this person can't handle it. It's just crazy. But we do that when it comes to other substances because those are not the substances that have been mainstreamed in America. Whether it's marijuana, whether it's cocaine, you name it. But people don't like to think of it from that perspective that, oh, wait, it's just a matter of opinion which substance you like over other substances. Why is it that somebody who comes home from work and smokes a blunt or smokes a joint, they're risking jail, but somebody who comes home from work and, they drink a whiskey, they're totally fine. And also studies show that alcohol, if anything, is worse than marijuana in terms of its effects on your body. And when people drink, you'll see a fist fight outside of a bar.
Yeah.
As opposed to if they're smoking weed, they're eating potato chips and they're watching reruns of whatever cartoon is on Cartoon Network. Adult Swim, holla at me. So that's what I would do. I would pardon every single nonviolent drug criminal in America. Also, here, you ready for more controversy? Or, see, people think it's controversial. I don't think it is. Because I'd go out and I'd give press conferences and I'd say, look, here's the deal. Either you're in favor of freedom or you're not. Either you're in favor of people making decisions with their own body when they're not hurting anybody else, or you're not. So if we actually like to think that all those people that fought and died for America fought and died for some principle, then you're on my side. If you disagree, I guess you hate the troops. You got to frame these things in tough ways where people go,
sure.
Damn, okay, there's a point there, and I can't really argue against it.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. So you know who else I'm freeing? I'm giving a pardon to?
Who's that?
Everybody in jail for gambling.
Oh, yeah, I can agree with you on.
Also, all cases involving prostitution where there was no violence, no coercion of the women involved. I don't want to lock anybody up. You know, like how they do these entrapment things. Sometimes they do it on police shows.
Oh, like sting, like
sting operations. You know, there's a woman who's really a cop who's pretending to be a hooker.
Yeah.
She's like, "Hey, you big boy, you want to have some fun?" And the guy's like, "Okay," you know, and they're like, got you. 8 years in jail." Freeing all those people. I'm not going to have those people in jail. That's crazy to put those people in jail.
I could see that.
Okay, so this is all the same day. That's basically all one swift motion.
Mm-hmm.
3 separate things, one drug, one prostitution, one gambling, all signing it as soon as I get the names and I tell them day 1, second 1 to give me the names of that, okay? Mm-hmm. Second thing I do, I'm taking a sledgehammer to the DEA and I'm defunding it and defanging it. So people... You got to understand, the way that our system works, the president is not a king. He can't do everything, okay? But he does have certain powers. For example, he's the head of the executive branch. He's the head of all the federal agencies. He's also the commander-in-chief, so he's the head of the military. So you do have the authority to take a government agency and say, yeah, we're going to tweak this a little bit, right?
Without going through Congress?
Without going through Congress, exactly. That's why I had to think about this. What would I do? What can I do?
Yeah.
This is one of the things I could do. I'm going to basically defund it as much as I can and is allowed, and I'll defang it in the sense that I'll call the heads of the DEA into my office, and I'll say, because you're the president, you can hire and fire them. So I'd say, here's the deal. If you want to keep your job, you are no longer prosecuting any drug crimes, any nonviolent drug crimes. If you don't, if you want to lose your job, go right ahead. Go right ahead and prosecute people that, marijuana criminals, whatever. Then guess what happens? You're fired. So it's up to you. You decide. Either we keep paying you and you don't prosecute, okay? You focus on other things, okay? Well, actually, you really can't because it's the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency. But sure, I'll keep you on the payroll for a little bit. I'll keep you on the payroll, but don't do anything. If you do something, you're fired.
But then you don't think just like stuff gets out of control, like
no,
drug cartels in Mexico and
okay, ready for this? Ready for this? This is going to blow your mind. And this is something I tried to describe on the show and explain on the show before. This is a very important point. The reason why the drug cartels are strong is because drugs are illegal. So let me explain exactly why. When people want to go buy some weed or some cocaine right now, they have to buy it from the drug cartel. There's a line that gets traced back all the way to the drug cartel. What would happen if you legalize drugs? The drug cartels no longer have a monopoly. They no longer make all the money. You know who would make the money? CVS, Walgreens, different pharmaceutical companies, different alcohol companies if they want to get in on the weed business. Would you rather give money to Coors Light or some guy who's
I'd feel a lot
Mexican
safer
drug
walking
cartel?
into CVS and buying like certain drugs than going, to Mexico or something like that.
Yeah,
having
better.
fear of my life.
Of course.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so to your point, I guess it would be safer to walk into...
It would be safer. When you legalize something, you bring it into the light, and you can... It can tax it and regulate it and everything. Just like how prostitution is legal just outside of Vegas. There's never been a single STD transferred over there. Why? Because they mandate that you need to get a test every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. And the women are paid better and they get good benefits because it's legal. You can legalize it, tax it, and regulate it. When you bring it into the light, you can control the market in a certain way.
Same with gambling out in Vegas too. Like you can go into a casino and place a bet where... As in New York or something, you got to shadily go through a guy or find a weird spot, and then that's when stuff gets shady,
Think of when we had prohibition of alcohol in the U.S., that was when the mafia became the mafia. The mafia was nothing before that. But the reason why they became powerful, guess who supplied all the illegal alcohol? The mafia. They got all the money. They got super powerful. So if you never had prohibition of alcohol, the mafia would have never become as strong as it was. See, these are things people need to understand the history of it and understand the dynamics of it, and then they go, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, here's the next thing. Review every single military base in the U.S. and commit the first day to cutting at least 25% of the bases. Because right now... There's about 900 military bases, 900 U.S. military bases around the world in over 100 different countries. Some of them are just totally useless. We're just wasting taxpayer money. So I'd commit the first day to cutting at least 25% of them. My end goal would be more like cutting over 50% of them.
And the president has the power to do that?
Yes, because you're the commander-in-chief, and you're in charge of things like this. So absolutely. And it's not a spending bill. All spending bills have to be approved through Congress. So if you're spending more money, you have to go through Congress. But if you're cutting money, you could do it yourself. And then also, and this is the last one, and this is not really as much on me, but I would set the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I would call a meeting with every single Democratic leader in the House and the Senate. I would call them all into my office, and I'd say,
"This big office.
This is what we're going to do." No, the leaders, the Democratic leaders in the House, and imagine I have all the Democrats in the country in there. I would tell them, this is what we're doing. These are the no-brainer issues that we're going to fight for until we win.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to propose a living wage bill, so make the minimum wage a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
Chain it to inflation. We're going to propose that bill today. We're going to propose a bill that mandates defensive wars only. Propose that bill today. We're going to propose a gay marriage bill, legalizing gay marriage on a federal level, and a universal background checks for gun purchases bill. Those 5 legislative initiatives are all overwhelmingly popular with the American people. The least popular thing there is gay marriage, and that's 59% are in favor.
Yeah.
So that's everything else, like universal background checks for gun purchases, 90% favorability. Even a majority of Republicans are with us on that one. Minimum wage raise, 80% are with us. So these are ones where we know they're wins politically, and they're also good policy-wise. So we're going to propose all these bills today. Let the Republicans slap them down, and then boom.
Nothing healthcare?
Eventually, the reason why I wouldn't do healthcare on day one is because it requires a lot of work with a lot of experts to switch our system over to a Medicare for all system, which is what I want. And that requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of attention to detail. So you can't do that on day one. But I thought about it, but you can't. There's just not possible. The logistics aren't there. The logistics are there for this. Propose a very simple living wage bill, mandate defensive wars. A majority of the American people are non-interventionists. They'll agree with that. Gay marriage, universal background checks. And then what'll happen is you'll propose them, depending on who's controlling the House and the Senate, they might get slapped down. The Republicans might not even allow a vote on it. But here's the difference between me being a Democratic leader and people like Obama. I go, great, you blocked it? Fantastic. Watch me give an address later tonight explaining to the American people that you hate them and you disagree with them.
But then they just come out and say their side of it. Like, that's how politics fucking is so pointless.
Guess who wins that argument in the end, though? The person who has the overwhelming majority of the American people on their side. If I call a press conference and I say, we just proposed a bill to raise the minimum wage, 80% of you agree with us on that. A majority of Democrats, independents, and Republicans agree with us on that. How about you guys pick up the phone and call the Republicans and ask why they're fascists?
But realistically, does that work? I mean, like, then you have Fox News saying that.
Here's how it works. Here's how it works. It might not necessarily get the bill passed, okay? But you know what happens? When you are very strong with that line and you repeat it over and over, in the next election, you wipe them out.
You would think.
And
you would hope.
I think we know that because the Democrats have always tried the opposite approach, and they always lose with the opposite approach.
Which is what?
Whenever they do well, which is let's run to the center, let's be buddy-buddy with the Republicans, let's be more right-wing. Yeah. But whenever we do the opposite, whenever there's people who run as progressives, they win. I'll give you a few examples. In this recent election, Nunn in Georgia, she was a Democrat. She did commercials with George H.W. Bush, saying, I'm with him, I'm like a Republican. Got destroyed.
Yeah.
Allison Lundergan Grimes in Kentucky ran as a center-right Democrat against Mitch McConnell. Basically, she was shooting guns in her ad, saying, I love coal. Very Republican in her actions.
Yeah.
Got destroyed by 15 points against Mitch fucking McConnell, who's the turtle man, who nobody likes anyway. She lost. There's a guy, Mark Pryor in Arkansas. He ran ads holding the Bible, saying, I get my beliefs from the Bible. Got destroyed. He ran as the most conservative Democrat in the country. Meanwhile, look at a guy like Alan Grayson. Alan Grayson is a true progressive in Florida, of all places. Won by double digits because he ran as a progressive. Okay, when people run as progressives, they win because they're appealing to things that the American people believe. And I'm not saying you go out there and use the word, I am a progressive. No. You go issue by issue. Hey, I'm with you on the minimum wage. Hey, I'm with you on wars. Hey, I'm with you on drugs. I'm with you on background checks for guns. If you make the argument, people go, oh, I agree with that guy, and he's strong. I like that. So, again, we might not get it through the first day, and we might not get it through the entire first term in office. We might not. But if you continually make that argument, and by the way, that leads to the other point about what I would do here, I would spread everybody out. I'd say, okay, when they block it, and they're going to block it, assuming they have control at the time, the Republicans, I'd say, okay, I'm going to give a speech to the nation, an address to the nation, and I'm going to word this in a way that's very convincing and very strong. And then I want all of you to go out on the Sunday talk shows, to go out on all the 24-hour political news networks and talk about this and just back up our line. There are video clips online of Republicans, when they want something, all of them get on the same page and all of them use the exact same talking points on the Sunday shows. And you know what happens? It works.
Yeah.
Like when the Republicans came out really hard against Obamacare and made up the death panel bullshit. I mean, you'll think that's so over the top, that's so fucking crazy, nobody believes it, right? Mm-hmm. But when you hear it 24 hours a day from every single elected Republican, yes, and they say it over and over in the exact same wording, eventually it's reflexive. People start going, well, you know, I hear about those death panel things in Obamacare, and what happens? The law becomes majority unpopular, which is why right now, by the way, 58% of the American people say we don't like Obamacare. But when you go provision by provision,
well, you ask them why.
It's no, well, they don't know.
Yeah.
It's because the Republicans have drilled into their head, Obamacare bad, Obamacare bad. But when you go provision by provision of the law, it's one of the most wildly popular laws in America. I mean, most of the provisions are over 70% approval rating. So they're good at messaging. They're good at PR.
Messaging.
And what we need to do is copy that trick, and we can do that. We just need to have a leader of the Democratic Party who's a real fucking leader.
Yeah.
So that's day one. That's what I would do on day one.